So you may have seen my little rant or IG live earlier this week on Instagram, but I ran into a situation that was a little bit of a problem and just kind of reinforced something that I think needs to be reminded to everybody. So what happened, short version, is that I spent this awesome amount of 20 minutes, which quite frankly seems like a lot, but it's pretty average when it comes to creating reels, creating a reel, and before I had a chance to hit publish, the app crashed. As a result of that, all of my work was gone. I was annoyed. I'd wasted 20 minutes and I had absolutely nothing to show for it. Not good things. But what this really reminded me, which is the lesson that I want to talk about today, which is we don't own our content on these platforms. It may be all of your amazing intellectual genius that is going into creating this stuff, but unless you house it on your website where you own the content, it's actually not yours, right? As soon as we post a picture on Instagram or Facebook, they have the licensing for that. It sucks, right? It is part of those terms and conditions. You don't own it. Now, Zuckerberg managed to snake away and not have any additional fines. Come down on him on Facebook because I think it was this past week, there was an update in the lawsuit against him by the FCC. But the problem is that he basically went around and the argument rather, is that he went around and bought up all of his biggest competitors to create this wonderful conglomerate, i.e. a monopoly. Obviously, he's got Facebook, WhatsApp, Messenger, Instagram, and then a couple of other ones that you probably haven't heard of because they're not really mainstream. But even so, that's a lot right there, right? And as we've learned recently with Instagram, when they CFO, I believe it was, or the CMO directly came out and said, we are no longer a picture sharing app. We are a video platform. It's entirely because they want to compete with TikTok, right? And that's something that I have just kind of a personal objection to because, quite frankly, I think in general you should stick to what you're really good at, not always try and be keeping up with the Joneses because you will always be a step behind or you'll lose the original loyal audience that you had who you built because you stood for something personal, right? You knew what you were good at rather than being the absolute best photo sharing app, and that's why people go to Instagram. He wants them there instead of on TikTok in every way, so he's competing, right? And as a result, if you want to get more reach or even just shown fully to all the people who already follow you, you need to do IGTV and post original videos and post reels because that's how they're kind of hurting the accounts that don't, and the ones that do and that help push their mission are getting more exposure. So let's say you do what I did on Monday, right? I worked on this reel. It totally crashed on me. Mind you, this was not the first time the app crashed. So what a bunch of crap, right? Should have learned this before, and I clearly didn't. Because I'm human too, and I get caught up in wanting to share things or create a reel that's fun or make sure I get even more reach than before. But nonetheless, I decided to share this story with my reminder as an IGTV. I also downloaded the video, then I went to my website, and I created a full blog post around that, right? I took that original piece of content and expanded on it to create another piece of content on a platform that I own, which is my website. Okay, I'll be posting the link in the comments of this video so that you can see kind of the written recap if you don't want to watch everything. But it also is something that when all of this goes away, because obviously even this video is being housed in a Facebook group, if that's not there anymore, I want to make sure I still have and I still own my content, right? God forbid, all of a sudden Facebook closes shop one day and it's just like, screw it, we're over it. You don't want to lose all of the wonderful things that you have put time, energy, sweat, and expertise into creating. So always make sure you put on your website, right? So what I did was I took the IGTV, original content for them, downloaded it, went over to DCM, wrote more things around it, uploaded the video there. You're getting first access to the blog post. Then next week, I'll be sending out an email campaign to the people in my segmented list where it is already something that I know would be of interest to them because they've chosen specific categories they want to hear about. Which leads me into the promotional aspect. right? You may be saying, well, if I put everything on my website and I just don't have the reach with either the organic traffic or paid traffic to the website or an email list, how am I going to get in front of people? And here's how that helps. Whether you have 20 people on your email list or you have 20,000, when it comes to how email service providers actually look at things, what they're paying attention to is not the total number of people on your list, but the open rates. So you put the content on your website, you can then turn around and go back to social media and share it there, right? Social media is still a great way to help get the brand awareness that you want, but conversions, i.e. phone calls to you, forms filled out, or direct purchasing, all happen through email, and the email may translate to a phone call and it may happen on a phone call, but those are not things that are traditionally on social, right? Social, specifically if you're not doing a product, right? If you're offering a service, if you're doing a product where you can just click on something and be like, yep, I want to buy this earrings right now, then yes, that can happen directly on social, but most service businesses are converting in email or on phone calls. And I think those of you in those areas will find that if you look back at your, past work, someone may have seen a social post and so they reached out, but it was in an email or a phone call that they truly understood the value you provide and decided to hire you. So let's say you have a list of 20 people, 20,000 people, and you send an email with, hey, here's my new content, and 10% of them open. Well, I've talked about the importance of having segmented lists before, and I'm going to stress that again because 10% open, it's a very low open rate. That tells the email service providers, i.e. Microsoft, like Outlook and Google and Yahoo and Hotmail or whatever other services people are using, this content from this domain, right, because every email you send is attached to your domain, the domain is not producing content that people seem to want to open. So the next email is going to go to spam, or it could go to a promotions folder if people are on Gmail, or it's just deprioritized in the inbox, right? I think Gmail, I know for sure has this. I believe Microsoft does too, like the important tags that come through. And it automatically does that based on your behavior. These algorithms are everywhere, right? It's not just social media. But that's because you only had 10% open rate. It could be your subject line wasn't great. It could be that's the only 10% of your audience on average. If you're getting a 10 to 15% open rate, send your next email campaign only to those people who'd opened the last one or opened the last 5 of them. Yes, the total number of people you're sending to may be lower, but your open rates are going to go up. When you have consistent open rates that go higher and higher, or at least are above the 30% mark on a consistent basis, the same signals are sent to those service providers that people are actually opening this email, so it will get prioritized in the inbox. It won't go to spam. It won't get put into promotions or social or any of the other inherent categories, right? And the better the chance you get directly into somebody's inbox, the chances of them opening it go up, which means they'll read the message goes up, and then from there, the opportunities for sales actually increase. Okay, so it's a huge waterfall effect of one thing just kind of building on another, leading to that sale. So let's rework this and say, okay, I've got 20 people on my email list. Okay, send an email to 20 people, right? Maybe test out subject lines. What matters the most across the board is the quality of the content. Okay, a large email list is not developed overnight. Even if you were to buy a ton of emails, your engaged contacts are the only ones that really matter, whether they are evangelists or, just brand supporters, or if they're actual potential customers. The ones that open are the only ones that matter. So I do recommend you go back and do a re-engagement campaign if people have not opened the last 2, 3, or 5 emails, and say just a quick, hey, just wanted to check in and find out if you're still interested in some information from us. Either choose the categories based on the type of content you send out. And I have an example in my email signature of how I set up a form for that to choose categories. Or just simply tell us like what you want to do, right? And if they're like, yeah, I just want to unsubscribe, great, remove them. Okay, it is better to have a smaller list that is very highly engaged than to have a humongous list that is not. Just like on social media, right? Whether you have 400 people or 4 million people following you, it's the percentage of engagement that directly correlates to how seen you are. In order to be seen, you need to have these things in place, because if you're going to be seen, that is how you get them to then engage. The engagement feeds future sales. So let's take this full circle back to the beginning, okay? If you create something original on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and you're like, actually, I really like that, fantastic. Take that graphic, that photo, that video, whatever it is, and create it into expand on it as a blog post on your website, okay? You can always expand on whatever it is that you just created. I know it. I'm very, very confident, okay? Particularly if it's something that is your area of expertise. If it's just like a fun thing or a motivational quote somebody else had, that still could be a content idea of, well, explain why this motivated you. Why did you think it was on brand to share to begin with? Once it's on your website, you send it out to the people on your list who are going to be the most interested in that type of content, right? Maybe they just open the email and read and don't take an action. Okay, 5 emails from now, they may take an action. But across the board, it may be another 6 months before they take action. But the point is that you are consistently getting them to open your emails, because when the opportunity for your service comes around, they remember you, right? And they stayed on your list for a reason, either to help promote you, to be able to refer you, or because they're going to want to work with you and the timing is just not right. Right? So when you look at people who have these really large email lists, or they talk about email marketing, I think you will find in your research, as I have, as well as just years of personal experience with this across a variety of different sized email lists I've worked with, they don't happen to get large overnight. And there's a reason that we marketers called the effectiveness of this is drip campaigns, because it is steady drips and drops that add up to a bowl full of water, right? It is not always just a faucet of like, hey, let me turn this on. Yes, Sully's very passionate about this. It is not just all of a sudden, let me send out one email, I'm going to get tons of replies and I'm in a sales right now. If you send an email to your highly engaged audience about a specific product or service you want to sell, you may get a reply of, yes, sign me up, or an e-commerce transaction from there. Highly possible, right? And very doable if that's what your goal is. But when it comes to the content you're creating, you want longevity in your business and you want to make sure that you have full ownership of it. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all of them could be folded tomorrow. Your business should still be there, and your way of contacting your highly engaged people should be through email, right? That is what is going to protect your business, protect your intellectual property, and ensure that you're really getting the most reach that you possibly can. Because even if you pay to boost a post on Instagram or Facebook, there are a lot of people that just don't use social media. Or they really love your brand and they follow you, but they were on vacation for a week, and so they stopped engaging with social in general. And when they came back, you had fallen out of their algorithm, right? Or out of their newsfeed. It happens, but people always check their email. They may not always open their email, but they always check it. Not everyone checks social, right? So social is there to amplify your brand, not to be your primary means of sales or communication with potential clients and evangelists for you, right? That is where the emails come. So make sure you own your content. Make sure you share it, right? Share and amplify on social, but look for those conversions and the true developing of relationships through email. That's what I got.